Matthew Wales, welcome to
Pleasure.
Business Insider. Thanks for coming along.
My pleasure.
I'm tempted to start with, how did you fit us in? Because I know how much you've got on your plate on any one given day, but we appreciate your time.
That's fine.
And we'll roll from there. As Bob preempted, it is about Matthew Wales and what drives him. We'd love to have some insight into maybe the strategies of the development of the Wales brand over the last couple of years. Do you? And most people don't have a brand plan on themselves. But have you done? Have you had some turning points in the last 5 years and said, "Hey, that was a strategic decision and it was the right one"? And equally, we might tackle some of the wrong ones a bit later.
Well, I think all businesses grow and develop over time, and they adapt to circumstances. I guess for me, some of the real turning points has been actually utilising your time better. We got to a point in our small business that we had so much work and so much demand for our time and our services that we really had to go back and very closely examine how we spent our time, how we accounted for it, and find that balance between our planning business and the community work that we do with the business community. Mm-hmm. And that can be very difficult, and as you say, you've got to fit that all in any given week. And I think, as all small businesses know, it's not a 9-to-5 job. I mean, we spend many more hours than that, both on our business and both on our community work.
Indeed. On the business side, I'm not aware of the structure. Do you work with a team of employees, or is it just
we're a small family company,
right,
but we use and rely heavily on contractors. So we look at a number of other disciplines to support our business: engineers, surveyors, environmentalists, ecologists. So we tap into those other resources, and we've been very lucky to be able to build a very reliable platform of sub-consultants that support our business and support our clients. Because ultimately our service is to provide our client with an approval, whether it be from council or state government, and having those reliable sub-consultants to basically bolster our business is very, very important to us.
Okay. Looking at the mix between work you get from the Central Coast or Central Coast businesses and work outside the Central Coast, are most of your clients based here on the Central Coast? Or?
It's fair to say that probably the majority of them would be, although in recent years that is starting to change. Our company works for a number of national brands, including Coles and McDonald's, so it takes our work outside of the Central Coast. And a number of our major clients, other clients equally, are working elsewhere in New South Wales and Queensland. And certainly with the advent of better technology, we find that we work more remotely now than we did a few years ago, including work that we're doing at the moment for Newcrest Mining in New Guinea. So it doesn't really matter where you are. What people want is the service that you provide and being able to deliver the results, and that's what we aim to do.
Let's talk about that service. And if we're to talk in a slightly more esoteric way, sure, you provide plans and very thick and heavy documents, but why do your clients come to you? Why do they come to Wales Associates?
I think it's because of the personal relationship that you have with your clients. We've found that even with some of the national brand companies, prefer to deal with smaller companies where they have that one-on-one relationship with the person who's doing the work. It doesn't always occur that way, but I think it is that personal relationship and being able to develop that network with those people.
But Newcrest in New Guinea,
yes,
I'm not surprised to hear that the Wales network spreads to New Guinea, or the highlands or the lowlands, or how did you get that?
Well, again, it's through networking,
right,
and through contacts that we've established over the years. So that other consultants are looking for specialists to undertake certain work, and they say Matthew Wales is the guy that we should use here. They make those recommendations, as was the case with Newcrest, and we're now working in that area, and that has been a very rewarding process for us. That is unusual. I suppose that's an extreme, but largely the work that our company does is through networking and word of mouth. We do very little advertising, but we do promote our services through getting results and making sure we deliver to our clients what they want.
And back to that, we use the superhero sort of analogy on this and say, okay, well you got Spider-Man who flies around on spider webs, and Superman who just flies, and Batman who's got an exceptional car and great set of abs. If someone was to describe Matthew Wales and Wales Associates, is there something that some attributes there, some values that?
I think our value, the value that we add, is that we can very quickly get to the bottom of the developmental planning issue and identify for our clients the way through. A lot of times we receive work that's already started, planning projects, development projects that are already started but have run into problems. And I guess our ability is to be able to sort through those issues, direct the client as to how he might overcome them, and then work through those issues and get the result that they need.
So you guys are fix-it people? No, it's a rough term. Let me just refine that a little. Is it a significant percentage of your work that comes at, or almost remediation? They get to a point and they've got a wall, or is that?
I think surprisingly there would be a fair bit that comes out of just the troubleshooting process. And often that's that the client has taken on the project initially themselves, realised that they can't get through the bureaucracy or come up with the answers or solve the legislation problems, and we get called in. Sometimes projects stall and they're looking for fresh input and they come to us. And I guess that would represent a fair proportion of our work. Whereas the other side is that we have a lot of clients that have been with us for 20 odd years. I've been in this business for 25 years, and we still have clients that we service today that we've had from the very beginning, and that's very gratifying for us.
Well, there is no finer recommendation as long as they're profitable. So. Yes, as long as they're,
yes,
we know that. Is there something you would like to see change within your business now over the next 12 months you'd focus on and say, okay, if I get to that point in the next 12 months, that'd be cool?
Well, I think pushing ahead with technology is important to us. We're always looking at upgrading our systems and our access to information. It's incredible to understand what we do now, today, through the internet, that we wouldn't have dreamed of doing 5 years ago. And the ability to source information is really quite staggering from when we started in a small office at Long Beach. So I think the challenge for us is keeping up with that information technology and making sure we use it to the best advantage for our small company, and continuing to get the results that we need to. And
whose responsibility is that? Because in Business Insider, Bob is the technologist and loves that space and continually sends me stuff that every now and again, I've got to say I'm reading more of it. Not necessarily understanding it, but reading more of it. That's a massive weight on a business owner's.
Well, I think fortunately for us, because we run a small business, the pressures are not as great as if you were running an office with 20 staff. But equally, we do need to make sure that we keep up to date and access information quickly. And we do rely on people within our business network as well to provide us with recommendations and point us in the right direction. And that comes back to this whole issue of networking and how important it is. You can't just lock yourself away in an office and do everything on the internet all the time. You have to get out there and mix with your business colleagues and learn what's happening, get advice, be prepared to take advice, and put that to good use in your business. And that's what we do. And we also try to promote that with our own involvement in the local business community as well, so that people are aware that there's challenges there every day. If you don't learn something each day, then I don't think you're doing the right thing in your business. And we do. We learn every day something.
Okay. let's talk about learning, let's talk about life balance, let's talk about making more time. You know, life-work balance, is there such a thing?
I think fortunately, I think anybody who's in small business, and particularly in the building and development industry, would realise that it isn't a 9 to 5 thing. You've really got to be able to be flexible in your hours, and it is a tricky situation to try and balance that with your family and your other commitments. But for me, I don't find that too difficult because I really do love what I do, and I think people are fortunate if they just happen to be in a job that they do like, they do love, and they're passionate about. So finding that balance between work and family comes surprisingly easy. There's always challenges, especially when you've got grandkids running around as well. But I think that's what makes the whole process exciting, and I don't overly worry about it, but it's there, and you need to be able to manage it when you do get pressures from your family commitments.
The chairman of the board.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
exactly.
married to the chairman as well.
Mine's very good.
Yes. We all should do that, yeah. If we provide the opportunity to get something off your chest, what we call the rant, and we give 60 seconds for this, Matthew, okay? No longer.
Oh, gee.
60, yeah, I realise who I'm talking to. If you could change something on the coast, what would that be?
I guess for me the most important thing is that we change the strategic direction that the coast is going. As you know, I've been a strong advocate for change within our own planning guidelines in Gosford and Wyong councils, and particularly Gosford. I was disappointed with the outcomes with the draft LEP. I think we've lost an opportunity to be much more strategic about the future of this city. So I guess for me that is probably paramount, that Gosford and Wyong councils take a longer view and a much harder view of what we need in this city, and certainly that comes back to this whole issue of council amalgamation, which I'm a strong supporter of, so that we do get the sorts of outcomes that residents and business people in this in the Central Coast do need. So I think that is something that we will continue to pressure for in my capacity in the business community as with the Chamber of Commerce. And I think that is a huge challenge for all of us. We can't stick our head in the sand. We've got now a draft LEP that's been adopted, but I think we need to work harder on that, come up with some more strategic directions and programs and build on it so that we do get the outcomes that we need. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to house people, we're not going to be able to provide affordable accommodation, and we're not going to be able to provide a firm business platform for the future. So to me that is very, very important.
I think I read one of your comments that referred, have we got as the foundation of our LEP, a draft document that every local council in New South Wales got, or have I been misled there?
Well, by council's own admission, this is just a conversion document. They've just taken the template, the New South Wales template, and shoved it on top of the old planning instrument and tried to massage everything in. There are some good parts to the LEP, there's some pretty lousy parts, but I was disappointed, I guess, that over a 6-year period I would have hoped that the council would have been more strategic in some of their reviews of what we need, particularly in town centres, and that's the disappointment for me. And my fear is that in the months to come and the years to come, that there'll probably be just as many changes to this new draft LEP as there was to the old one. And I guess only time will tell.
My disappointment is that they thought so little about this process that they've tried to massage it rather than stepping back. And I've not been to anywhere near as many meetings as you've been to on this, but certainly in Wyong, to say, okay, well, we are a coastal town. We are suffering some very specific issues with population growth, unemployment, commercial issues that I would hazard, I guess, to say these are unique in New South Wales. There would be councils who would put their hands up and say, well, we're similar, but not sandwiched between two, the first largest and I think the seventh largest city in Australia. No one else is in that environment, and with specific requirements. How do we as a business group kind of say this is really not good enough, guys?
I think you have to be vocal. You can't simply turn a blind eye and say, well, it's beyond my control. I've always believed that if you felt strongly enough about something, you should say something. It's the simple side of it. And while Council are actually going through a settlement strategy prior to their LEP being drafted, and I really take my hat off to that approach, because they are taking a much more strategic view of the city's needs. And I struggle with the fact that we didn't do that in Gosford. And I know that Council were concerned about lack of resources and not being able to put the time and the money into doing that. But 6 years, surely we could have been a little bit more visionary, I suppose, and taken that opportunity. And now we're really behind the 8 ball. We're going to have to go back and revisit some of these things and make sure that we get it right in the future.
To your opinion, do the other business chambers do enough? Well, do you guys do enough on the peninsula? I hear what Matthew Wales thinks a fair bit, in the nicest possible way. Are the others doing enough?
The difficulty is that we're all voluntary organisations, and each chamber has to deal with its resources as best it can. And the Peninsula Chamber is no different. We don't have a levy or funds coming in from other locations to fund executive offices. We have to do it all ourselves. Our chamber is probably a bit more vocal than others, and that's something that we have done deliberately because we feel if we're not vocal, we'll get left behind. We are very supportive of the New South Wales Business organisation, and we are affiliated members of New South Wales Business and have been from the very start. I think that's important for all chambers of commerce to be involved in that. And I sit on the Regional Advisory Council, again a voluntary position, but I feel passionate about the Central Coast, not just the Peninsula, and think that that's important.
If I was to be slightly aggressive, and I'm not usually,
yep.
But I've heard very little from the Business Council, the New South Wales Business Group, on what's happening in this area. Is it their role? Is it an advisor or an advisory?
Well, it is their role, and I have said many times that New South Wales Business should be stepping up to the plate and having a view, and it does on many occasions. But equally, it's up to the press to take up the issues. Just because you put it out there doesn't always mean that the press is going to take it up. Our chamber has been fortunate in that a lot of the issues we target seem to be in vogue, I suppose. I mean, they're important on the day, so we do get some coverage. So it is a matter of building that relationship with the media, which is a very, very important tool. If you don't have the media on site, it's very hard to get your message across.
Yeah, I don't know whether fortunate or luck comes into it, Matthew. I think you've got a good eye. I think your group's got a good eye for what is topical and what is an issue. You
have to pick your issues, certainly, because people don't want to be bored. But if there are issues that you know people are passionate about and you target those, then you'll get the response. And the Peninsula in particular, we always have this view that we always are the southern cousins and don't seem to get our fair share all the time. Whether you believe that or not, that's the view, unfortunately, that we have. So we really do have to be vocal in order to get results, particularly out of council. And that doesn't come easy. It's been a hard process, not just from council, but from state and federal governments as well.
No, well done, well done. The idea is, this is an extraordinary place to live, and there is a theory, or I guess even a building platform that suggests we are our own worst enemies here. We look out the window and we see an extraordinary day. And I walk down to Shelley Beach in the morning, and there's 20 or 30 tradies, trucks down there looking at the surf.
Yep.
and they're not, and the tradies are the salt, and they're actually answering some of my calls when I make them, which is good too. Are we compromising our growth because of the?
I think it's one of those unique characteristics of the Central Coast, and it's a matter of how you manage that. We're fortunate that we can make a decision whether we work here or set up a business or work in Sydney. We have that choice. And I think that uniqueness certainly has its downside on occasions, but I think it also produces a lot of really good business people that have a very casual and innovative view on business and life generally. So I actually see it as being a positive. It's how you harness that positive, I guess, is the trick. And just within my own business, I just think we're so lucky to be able to work on the Central Coast. And half my clients wouldn't know where my office was because of technology, and nor do they particularly care. So it's a matter of how you use that, apply it to your business, reap the benefits, but still deliver for your client. So it is hard.
And build your network of
yeah.
trusted suppliers and
correct.
subcontractors.
And I know personally, we try to use consultants based here on the Central Coast, and we try to use small consultants, and we've largely been successful in doing that because we support local businesses even within our own sphere of work. And we're very fortunate on the Central Coast that we have a raft of extremely good professional people, and they're there ready to work and do it within this wonderful lifestyle. So I reckon it's great.
And it leads to the difficulty, well, or the bonus of they actually discount their rates because at some point they believe, okay, well, I could be earning $150 or $180 in Sydney, but I'll do it for. Does that come into the, the value?
I think there is a bit of that. Certainly, the perception is that you certainly can't charge Sydney rates on the Central Coast, and that's even reflected in wages and salaries. I think that's unfortunate because to a certain degree it demeans the value of the work that's being done. It's just the same as the work that's being done in Sydney. But yes, I think there is a bit of that. There is a perception of that. I don't know how you change that mindset because that's something that's developed over many, many years, but it is a problem, yes.
Because my fear is that it actually discounts their value in their minds as well. I'm not doing, and I say, I'm not sure whether the equation that they run through is say, okay, well, I will charge less to my host employer here because I am having this lifestyle, or because I'm not putting up with the pressure in Sydney. I don't know what the answer is.
I think in general, a lot of professionals, particularly in our industry, architects, engineers, surveyors, there's a pretty well standard set of rates that apply whether it's here or the Central Coast, and I don't see a lot of deviation in that. But if you're looking at specific projects and you're trying to price it up as a lump sum, I think perhaps there's a tendency that the Central Coast factor creeps in and you might not charge perhaps what you would in Sydney. But yeah, I don't think it's a huge problem, but it's certainly part of that.
It's part of the mix.
It's part of the mix.
The wonderful mix we choose to live in, and a beautiful mix it is. Matthew Wales,
pleasure.
thank you. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Okay.